1, 0. We're live. Let me check and make sure everything's cool. All right. Let me put your name up. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, there we are. 2 people in the house so far. Let's see. 0. Okay, it's good. We got quite a few people here. All right. All right. Let's see. Welcome everybody to the show. All right. Got let a few people come in. Let's see here. Let me set this up so I can see the comments. I think on your screen, Miguel, you can see the comments. There's something on the right side of the screen.
Yeah.
You want to see the comments. I didn't know about that till the other day when I was on somebody's show. I don't remember.
I'm not great at multitasking, so whether I'll be able to take much notice of the comments as well as
I'll stay on top of them.
Okay, cool.
All right.
That's good to know.
Yeah, we got a few people in the house. Michael Van Patten, Cricket Holden, thank you for your continued love and support. The Tree of Love is in the house. I like that name.
Yeah.
Linda Payton, Teresa Blackburn, Andromeda Biza, and Linda Lundegren. And Carla Roberts is in here. She's going to be on tomorrow. And Carla, I'll get the post out after the show. I'm sorry I haven't got it out yet. Janet Ann Gilliam, she's been around a long time. Betsy Perry's in the house. She's been on before. Lisa Jane Pierre from New Zealand. Shuxia Charday from New Zealand. Crystal Van Doors. Tanya Clarkson. Delia Flores. Allison Dorman. Good to see everybody. Got 17 people in the house, so we'll roll it out. I see a couple of new names, so let me just introduce myself. My name's Todd Medina. This is the Soulogy Network. This is our flagship primary broadcast vehicle. It's called SOULSPEAKS 5D. It's a conversation with, and today it's Miguel Dean. How you doing, Miguel? Thanks for coming on and putting up with me.
I'm really good, Todd. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm really pleased to be here. It's really good. Good.
Yeah, we pretty much do everything by the seat of our pants here. So I don't want to say last minute because everything's in the moment. But I went to your website yesterday and I visited and I looked around a little bit. And you're just you're a divine masculine, blossoming, leading. And you've got some great perspectives. You do some great things. So I just want to give you big props for that because you're very involved and you're walking the talk. So that's great to see because it's needed, with what's been happening with the divine masculine going through all his little pains and everything. So maybe you can shed some light on that. I don't know if you want to start there. You want to tell us a little bit about, I know you've been on Jeff's show on the Soulogy Network, Jeff Clouds, Waking Up in the Dream. But you give us a little background on, when you woke up and how you got into this 5D lifestyle?
It's always such a tricky question, isn't it? It's like, yeah, well, I'm waking up. Yeah, it's definitely no definitive thing. It's happening. It's definitely happening. It's definitely getting interested. And my sense is it started when I was born, really. The awakening. But there were certainly some key moments.
Yeah.
That had a significant impact. One was the death of my mother when I was 7 months old. And that kind of seemed to prime me to go in search of the divine feminine, to go in search of love, to go in search of woman, to go in search of, the goddess, if you like.
Yeah.
That was the biggie that started it all off in a way, because I had that flavor of love with my mother and then all of a sudden she wasn't there. But yeah, it's really hard to sort of pin it down, Todd. But, the reality is that I guess almost if I start where I am now, a few weeks ago, I was at the Goddess Conference in Glastonbury, which was an awesome experience. I was invited to speak there. And yeah, it just blew me away. I just was immersed in this ocean of divine feminine energy for a week. And I am changed. Like, yeah, it's taken things to a whole new level.
When was this? Last week?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, yeah, I couldn't be more specific than that because it's kind of like my masculine brain has just been taken out, like, you know, and like I'm
It's
just
that 3D brain just doesn't work, man. No, but you know, there's a lot of people in Glastonbury. I said that right, Glastonbury. Amanda Lawrence, Des Greensoul, Jim McCarty's over there. Man, I'd love to get over there at some point. Now, what were you speaking about at the Goddess Conference?
Essentially, it was about initiation of the boys, about rites of passage, and how, you know, how it tied in with the conference. Really is, you know, that I think we're coming to this place where we realize that one of the key components of healing and transformation is the balance of the divine masculine and feminine, you know, within ourselves, within our relationships. But it's like, you know, that can't happen if we have boys walking around in men's bodies. And there's a massive epidemic of that, I would say, is that so many men are still boys because they were never initiated. They don't know what it is to be a man. So, you know, that's essentially what I was speaking about, because, you know, it's almost like first we need to become men, and then we can start the journey of integration with our feminine and starting to really honor the feminine. And that's been just such a massive part of my own journey and my own experience, my own healing. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I got to tell you, I almost wore my hair down today because your hair is long, but I couldn't take it, man. I don't know how you can do it. I had to pull mine back. No, that's a great subject. So, you know, you said, you know, that boys running around thinking they're men. I just added that because we thought we were men. We thought we were supposed to be alpha male and supposed to be this and be that and be tough and hide the emotions, all that. And you said you got to become a man before you can go find that feminine. Does it go that way, or do they happen at the same time? Well, can you tell us a little bit about how you got there or how you're getting there?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're dead right, Todd. It's not really. There never seems to really be a before and after, and all this duality and polarity stuff just seems to be falling away. Everything just seems to be increasingly so paradoxical and so kind of woven together, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, very much woven together. And I guess, you know, what happened for me was, you know, it was with my mother wound, I was always searching externally for woman, you know, a relationship in my, as a man to complete me, you know, and yeah, there was some pure kind of like man energy in there, but there was an awful lot of I want my mummy, you know, there was an awful lot of that going on, and neediness and insecurity and so on. So invariably all the relationships, you know, came to an end. Either I sabotaged them or, you know, because I was too scared to go into that place, really dive into that place of opening my heart up again to the feminine, because it had been so painful when she'd left, you know, as a baby. So what happened to me essentially was, after many years of looking on the outside, I began to look on the inside and realized that this was about, it actually began on a sort of vision quest that I did 3 days on the land, where I fell in love with the land. And that was the beginning of me really falling in love with the divine feminine, rather than looking outside for some woman to complete me. And that was kind of like, yeah, a really key part for me. And then I had this relationship with this amazing, beautiful woman who, divine orchestration meant that she kept leaving me. And this woman, I had just reached this point where I was like, I'm not running from this anymore. I've spent nearly 50 years running from this pain and from this wound. And this boy needs to be, you know, he's running riot and he's causing chaos in all my relationships, and I'm not having it anymore. It's caused too much pain. So I kind of like, you know, I stuck my sword in the ground and said, I stand here. I'm not leaving. I will stand, and you know, whatever it takes, I will transcend this. And because my love of this woman is so deep.
Wow.
And so, you know, once I'm committed to that extent, life said, okay, now we're talking. So kind of threw everything at me, and she just kept leaving me. And the first time that she left me, it just triggered me straight into my childhood trauma. I kind of regressed to as if I was a baby. I couldn't eat properly. I could only eat sort of soft food. I couldn't sleep. I was sick. I was just all this nausea in my body, which must have been there when my mother had left as a baby, you know?
Yeah.
But because this time I chose to feel it. I didn't choose to get stoned. I didn't choose to get busy. I didn't choose to, run away from it. I chose to just feel it. And I kept Rumi's mantra of, the wound is the place where the light gets in. I just kept repeating that over and over. And I just kept laying on my bed and crying and just feeling the pain in my chest, and then walking on the hills, and then coming back and lying on my bed. And 8 days later, she showed back up again, and that was that work. The bulk of it was done. There were still kind of smaller ripples that needed to be done, and I was saying it's ongoing. But
yeah,
since that piece of work, energy is moving through me in a completely different way, and I stand taller, and my self-worth has grown, and my abundance that's showing up in my life. And amazing people like Todd Medina are getting in touch and saying, can we do an interview?
Yeah.
It's just all showing up now. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing because obviously I've had the same situation. I don't know that she really walked away from me, but she, well, I think I hung up on the phone on her quite a few times, when we first got started. But it's amazing to me how prominent the divine feminine role is, and we're talking both in relationships as a reflection of the collective, but how necessary and how how much that masculine energy needs that wisdom and that I would say unconditional love, untainted love, or everlasting love. Like they say about a mother. A kid can do anything, and the mother never gives up. You know what I mean? So it's that mother goddess energy. It's amazing to me how that feminine energy is such a prominent part of the masculine evolution into a divine masculine, or a budding divine masculine.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something that resonates with you? I mean, do you see that happening not just with yourself but other men?
I do see that happening with other men. But yeah, it's kind of, the two can't be separated, can they? It's often there's, like I say, everything just seems to be so woven together and kind of swirling, and there's no clear division anymore. And the divine masculine and feminine are woven together like two strands of a beautiful thread. You can't really separate them. And at the same time, it's not surprising that the divine feminine is such a big thing, because it's been so denigrated, and what the masculine has done to woman, on this planet, and the goddess, and and what is still going on, the horrendous treatment and disrespect and rape and abuse of the feminine. So it's like there is it's totally out of balance, and so there has to be more energy going to the feminine, it seems, at the moment, perhaps to redress that balance a little bit, sometimes it feels like quite superficial, the gender bodies that we're in. Essentially, we are the same, whether we're man and woman. We are this beautiful divine mix of masculine and feminine, and it's almost like increasingly, it's like if somebody says, well, what are the feminine qualities, or what are the masculine qualities, and I don't know the difference anymore. It used to seem really clear, like, you know what I mean? But it's, you could say that the feminine qualities are softness and receptivity and openness and all that stuff. But maybe it's because it's happening in me, that I can't see the difference in me anymore. I am all those things well, and I can't say, oh, that's a feminine bit of me, or that's a masculine bit of me. It's both, like,
Did you ever get to the point, because you talked about, which I think is really important, you talked about that pain that came when she left for those 8 days. and that you, instead of running from it or getting stoned or getting drunk or, keeping yourself busy, you actually allowed or embodied all that pain.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get to a point where you just surrendered to that feminine energy, just consciously?
I was. How do you mean? As the pain was the feminine energy, or are we talking about?
No. I'm saying in terms of the masculine energy, you took it on. You you stood up as a man and said, "I'm not going to run from this.
Yeah.
This is about me," and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Was there ever a point where did you feel you were resisting the feminine energy?
I was surrendered as completely as I could to the whole experience. And rather than a kind of masculine and feminine dynamic that was going on, it was a boy man dynamic.
Okay.
Because at the beginning of that pain, it was like, I remember it just happened, and I just got home and I was in pieces, and the phone rang and my friend rang up, and I was speaking to him on the phone, and I just heard this voice sort of shout through me, "I want my mummy." And it was like, fuck, where did that come from? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To begin with, there was all this boy, and then, but gradually, because it was like, how fucking dare she? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not having that. That's so out of order, and that's so inconsiderate. And she didn't need to do that, and we could have done it differently. And she hasn't thought about me. And then, as time progressed, there was this balance, like,
Yeah.
And I saw that I needed to. That the man in me began to say, "Hey, it's okay. Your woman just needs a bit of space."
Yeah.
And it just became ridiculous. This little boy is like having this massive tantrum and all this pain, and the man's going, "Hey, your woman just needs a bit of space. If she comes back, then that's cool. You're meant to be together. You know the crack. If she doesn't come back, then you're not meant to be together. You'll be all right, and you've survived, up till now. So there's no reason why that's going to kill you or anything." So gradually, this shift took place, but I had to do some work. Like, I just knew that I had to go to my mother's grave. I'd never been to my mother's grave for about 20 years, and I didn't even know where it was. But I just kind of like got in the car and I drove like for about 4 hours. I had to sort of track it down, and I had to go there, and I spent time at her grave, and then I spent time talking to my stepmother, and then I spent a little bit of time talking to an auntie who'd looked after me when my mother had first died. So it was like I had to do this kind of pilgrimage. I had to do stuff on the outside as well to bring to kind of ceremony, to let my little boy put him at peace, like, say, look, this is okay. There's no need to keep having a tantrum and that. It's okay. Your mother is still with you. And I see now that, of course she is. She is the divine feminine that is within me. Yeah. She has opened my heart. She is with me. She is me, like, you know what I mean? There's no separation.
Yeah. Yeah. I had my own journey with the divine feminine, and I'm speaking of the collective or the energy itself, the divine feminine. Yeah. It took me a long time. And of course I met Morgan 3 years ago, and that became, I guess, a second phase of that journey, where I started to get some clarity slowly, and stubbornly, but surely. But, I had an incident happen, and it was probably about 2 months ago, because you're speaking of the inner child, the boy, right? And something pretty profound happened. So I had a wound, and Morgan helped me through it. We were together at the time in the States, and so we were going through it, and I saw my little boy. I saw him, and he was upset, with. I thought he was upset with the feminine energy. So it wasn't the case. The case was he was upset. It was a first for me. He was a little upset with her, but he was upset with the masculine energy too. The way I saw it was like Jesus and Magdalene walking up to this child, and he was walking away with them. And I thought everything was okay, but then I asked him, "Is everything okay?" And he said, "No, I'm mad at both of you, but I'm really mad at him," which really kind of threw me off. And I cleared it pretty quick, but I don't know. Like you said, it's also interwoven And like you said a while ago, like in your situation, your thought process, and I've been there, was, yeah, why isn't she thinking about me? Why isn't this, well, why doesn't she understand this? Why doesn't, and I've always wondered, does it work both ways?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're asking the right person there, Todd.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that I see four parts. I see the divine masculine, the divine feminine, the human male, and the human female. These four components are all equal in this transition, in this proposition of bringing inner balance. And I find it kind of challenging because there is a different language here at the 3D level between the male and the female, or the man and the woman. There seems to be a different language. And I don't know, like you said, I just find it fascinating that you said that everything's kind of interwoven, because it's, you look one way and you think it's a square and it's a circle. You think it's up and it's down. And it just gets a little bit confusing. Now, how long have you been are you still in this relationship?
No. We decided, we kind of, it felt like it was, that it was just time to go our separate ways. We separated very amicably, and it was like, we came together to do the work that we came together, and it was done. It was pretty lot of kind of twin flame sort of energy to it. It was very beautiful and intense and painful, and it was the works. Yeah.
That's a story you hear a lot of, where people come together, and I've got some friends that was talking to someone last night about a couple of friends, and when that energy comes together, it's a very powerful thing, and it's not always peaches and cream, right? I mean, there's a lot of flame in it. What do you think of, they throw the terms around, twin flame and soulmate and divine consorts and such. What do you think in terms of the purest sense of that attempt to define, say, divine conscious couples? What do you think their role is, if anything, in this transition as we make this, as we make our way through in this ascension?
Well, I mean, it seems to be that it's, it's this kind of like microcosm and macrocosm stuff. Those levels that I mentioned at the beginning. That there is the inner masculine and feminine. There are the intimate relationships that we have with the, our partners, the man and woman, and then there is the expanding out from that is the connection with, with the earth and the feminine and the sky, and like the Native American kind of ideas of the sun and the moon, and the masculine and feminine, and the bigger cosmos sort of masculine and feminine. And so it seems to be, like most things, that what's going on the outside is just a reflection of what's going on the inside. Yeah. But the two are woven together. So it's like we heal and redress the balance of masculine and feminine by looking within and doing our own work. And that can be a bit abstract. And sometimes what just makes sense for me is being the mother and father to myself. Yeah. That I never had as a child. It's like, what did I not get then that I can give myself now? And so in doing that, that's working with the masculine and feminine within myself. Yeah. Because that's the kind of parental and caring. And then, and then the one informs the other. It's like this weave, isn't it? As we work inside, it's like the Native American twin trails. We're always walking two journeys. There's the journey within ourselves, and there's the journey of how we show up in the world. So how we work with our relationship, how we treat our woman, how we are with our woman, is the same as how we are with the inner feminine within ourselves. It's the same as our relationship with ourselves, isn't it? There's no difference, really. Yeah, you're right about that. That's a great analogy. Now, let me ask you this: before Judgment Day, as you were going through this, what's the difference? Let me put it this way: what's the difference from your perspective of before and after for the divine masculine, for the masculine? Because so many are struggling. What does it look like before? Because many of them are unaware, as I was, and maybe you were, of what we weren't
or what we thought we were that really wasn't anything, or that wasn't us, and after. What is the divine masculine energy look like, after you wake up and start to do the things that you're talking about?
Okay, yeah, massive question, but I'll try and there are three things which, if I remember them all, that kind of like come to mind with that, which I sometimes speak about. The first one is responsibility. That a boy sort of blames everybody else and looks outside and blames the past, blames his parents, blames the government, blames whatever, whereas a man says, okay, what have I got control of? What am I? What can I do? In what way do I have power? Rather than looking at excuses, it's like responding with ability to situations as they arise, and realizing that my response will determine the outcome. We haven't always got control over what happens, but we have full control over our response, and that will always determine the outcome. So I would say that's thing number one, responsibility. Thing number two is about reciprocity. That a boy thinks all about, about what he can get for him. What's in it for me? Whereas as we become a man, and all this stuff was in the old rites of passage stuff, that the young man had to go out and he had to kill an animal and bring it back for the tribe or whatever to eat and to feast. It's like, how can I serve? How can I serve the collective? How can I serve my family? How can I serve the bigger picture? And I think this is increasingly the collective, the tribe, because I really like Mother Teresa's quote that she said, one of the problems with the world is that we draw the circle of the family too small. And so there are men, boy men who will, let's look after my family. But I think we have to move beyond that to looking at humanity as a family, and how can I serve and how can I contribute?
Yeah.
So I'd say that's the second thing. And the third thing is about resilience. It's about accepting failure. A boy doesn't want to look weak and doesn't want to fall down and wants to, always wants to look cool and wants to look good. Whereas a man is happy to be vulnerable. He's happy to fall down because he knows if he's fallen down, then he's got himself right out of his comfort zone and he is in a place where there is potential for massive learning and growth.
Yeah.
So, to be resilient and to be okay with, and to understand that to fail is actually to succeed, and that it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be weak, and all that stuff that we were taught, that we had programmed into us that wasn't okay. Like, it's so much unlearning, isn't it? There's not a lot to learn, and there's a fuck of a lot to unlearn.
You got that right. I love that. Those 3 points, and the last one is really, really powerful because, it for me, and I got to think it's been the same way for many, many men, is that we resist the fact that we could have done something wrong. We resist the, it's such a mind. It's you asked me if we can cuss on the thing. I don't do it a lot so much anymore because I used to do it a lot, but it is a mind fuck, to the man. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, you're this charging up the hill kind of, this valiant alpha male charging up the hill, and then you get the shit kicked out of you. And the whole world's watching, and you're just like, it can't be me. But you're right, because that vulnerability is truly the strength that we are. And I really applaud you for that definition, because that hits it right on the head. Now let me ask you, you do a lot of stuff. I know you do a lot of speaking, and I saw a couple different things that you did. What is your primary focus? What's your work? What's your passion? What are you doing?
Yeah. Okay. It's evolving. It's evolving. I've always been terrible at, once I started kind of working for myself, well, what's your unique selling point and what's your niche? And it's like, I can't do that. It's like, I go where life leads, where I'm led. And there's a little story that perhaps just illustrates this the best, what my primary passion is. And this, so I'll just share this for a few moments, Todd, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I heard this from a very good friend of mine, a beautiful man called Mac McCartney, who did a lot of, he was mentored by some mixed blood Native Americans, and they shared with him the story of the Children's Fire. And the story of the Children's Fire talks about how when the tribes, the Native American tribes, first began to come together, that they to form a sort of council and to look at how they govern their people and so on, that they asked the question, how will we govern our people? How will we be? How will we make our laws, and how will we keep it all operating at the optimum? And they looked out on creation, and what they saw was the principles of the balance of the masculine and feminine. And they saw that when that was out of balance, that things went wrong in nature, in the natural world, in creation. And so they decided that would be one of the guiding principles of, that would govern how they governed their people, that they would always have men and women on the council, so that there would always be a balance, and they would always look at that dynamic. And the second thing that they saw was when they looked out into creation, and they asked the question, what is it that's most important in the natural world that keeps that balance and so on? And what they said was that, and what they saw was that the primary concern of all living creatures was the care of their young.
Yeah.
The primary concern of all living creatures was the care of their young, because they are the future. So what they decided to do was they said, right, so we will put in the center of every council meeting that we have, we will light a little fire, and that will be called the Children's Fire. And that will be to remind us that every law and every decision that we will make, we will look at how that will affect the children in 7 generations' time.
Yeah.
So they had those 2 key principles, the children and the balance of the masculine and feminine. And strangely, that has become my journey. My journey began very much, my primary focus was about the children, was about young people. I worked with homeless youth. I've worked with disadvantaged youth for nearly 20 years, in all sorts of different situations, in big community projects. I do a lot of one-to-one mentoring still, in schools, in the education system, in the homeless sector, in the care system, fostered children, and so on. But it's kind of like, and I've done quite a lot of work with homeless people because I was homeless myself for a little while. But where that's kind of led me just very recently is this whole masculine and feminine thing, this divine masculine and feminine. And it wasn't a conscious decision. As I say, it kind of culminated with this mind-blowing, heart-expanding experience at the Goddess conference, where, and it happened on Jeff's show as well, that a few women commented and wrote to me and said that they had a powerful experience by being, hearing me speak. And it's like, okay, I can't hide from it any longer. Life is asking me to do some work around healing the feminine's issues around safety around the masculine, to have an experience of being safely held with the authentic masculine. Because so the question you asked, what are the 2 guiding things? What is my focus? Those are them. It's the balance of the masculine and feminine, which is very new for me. It's life is just asking me to really step into this stuff. Yeah. But my older stuff and the stuff that I will still keep doing is working with the young people, because I don't know what's going on over in the States, but here we have an epidemic of mental health issues, and our young people are in crisis, I would say. Yeah. And I like the proverb that says, society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they shall not sit. Yeah. So that's I guess that's as concise as I could get for that one. Sorry.
No, that's good, and that's why I asked you, because I saw the work you were doing with kids, but I also am very in tune with what you're saying about this this place of trying to bring integration, really, you know, and I love what you said, because about the conversation you were having on Jeff's show with creating an experience or a space where the feminine energy can feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, this is also very new and very raw. It feels a bit like I'm coming out a wee bit, but I'm okay with that. Like, you know,
well, I'm right there with you. That's why I'm asking. But that's what it's all about. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm here. That's why you've invited me here. And yeah, so it's different, but it's not like something that I was kind of like looking for, or that I've tried to do or tried to kind of like make happen, but it just started happening around me with women that I was coming in, you know, into contact with.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, the sort of the title that is often used is Kundalini awakening.
Yeah. So
sometimes, you know, strange stuff would start happening in women's bodies that I was around, like, you know, sort of little convulsions and sort of tremors and you know, and all this kind of stuff, and then often followed by an emotional release. And it seemed to me that all that was happening was I was just being present. And I have a deep love of woman, like, you know what I mean? I have a deep respect and a deep love for the feminine. And for a long time, I kind of felt a bit dirty, and like there was too much sexual energy mixed up in that.
Yeah. I get you, man. Totally.
But now it's, you know, and it's a work in progress. Like, you know what I mean? I'm no saint, but it's a lot purer now. And so what seems to happen is because there is that purer love and respect and deep reverence, that something comes through me, like, you know what I mean, that makes them feel safe. And sometimes, you know, it happens through video calls. There doesn't have to be anything physical.
Yeah.
It's just being in that space, and just, if it seems to be connected with, you know, how ripe or how ready the woman is for that to happen. Like,
it probably has a little bit to do with the balance of your energy too. You know, but yeah, because I thought every time I had a shift, I'd tell Morgan, man, you've changed, you know, and she'd laugh at me, and then it took me about a year to figure out it was me that was changing. But, you know, I did a show yesterday with Amji, I can't pronounce the rest of his name, down in Tasmania. And I heard something for the first time I hadn't heard. And this is why I was asking you, because you're basically saying the same thing. I've always heard the woman hold space, the feminine energy is holding space. But he went the other way with it. He was talking about, and he was very, very upfront too. He said, I'm not perfect. You know, I still spin out. You know, he's got a divine feminine in his life that, by his own words, as he's flying up in the ether, she's pulling his feet back down and bringing back down to earth. Because we do have that. You know, we do have that. We haven't been as connected as the feminine. But what I'm getting at is, he said that basically that's what he's there to do, to hold the space for her.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting to crack the door open of what this new role is. And again, here we go with the polarities and the reversals and that meshing that you're talking about that gets convoluted. And at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. But that seems to be almost like I don't want to say a role reversal, but maybe it's time, and I'll just use street terms because I was homeless too for a couple of years. You know, maybe it's time for him to just shut the fuck up and just hold the space and let her wisdom and her love and her courage and everything fill that space, because we were filling it with, you know, a false power or a false stature, false position that was indoctrinated in us for, you know, eons. But maybe that's what it is. We hold that space, and everything takes root from there. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I really resonate with that, Todd. I think that's really, it is about holding space. Which is just about being present and being in your heart, you know, in your heart center, for me, just being totally there and just witnessing it. And it's kind of like, maybe it is the feminine energy coming through the male. You know, I'm not good on all the theory and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
I'm an experiential learner, and I don't read, I don't watch stuff. It just happens. I just do my work, like, you know what I mean. And this stuff's just kind of like happening, you know. So I don't really understand it. I just experience it, I suppose. But it is very much something about holding space, just being with unconditional love without any judgment. It's like whatever happens, you are loved however you show up, you know. It doesn't matter what's going on. And the challenge, of course, is that with that is, you know, once you get into relationship, you know, things can get a bit sticky, and it becomes more challenging to be able to hold space when your woman is throwing a load of shit at you. And it's kind of like, you know, it's not personal, but there's a bit of you that's taking it personally.
It took a while. Yeah. No, you're right about that. I think the other thing too, and you touched on it, and somebody mentioned it, but it's there. We should talk about it, and that's the sexual energy. You know, the sexual energy from where we came from. So, you know, and I know in your work you've experienced it, and I've experienced it, you know, in my work over 7 years. And it took me a long time to figure out that certain energies were coming at me of that nature. And I don't want to say a lower vibration because it's all good, but I'm just saying from where we came from. So in other words, if you see that spark and they see that spark or whatever the case is, immediately from our conditioning, it took on this sexual energetic overtone.
Yes.
And we moved into this pattern behavior of, you know, we're supposed to perform, or we're supposed to flirt, or we're supposed to do this, or we're supposed to do that. And it took me a long time with the guidance that I got, that if it's something's active in my energy field, then it's going to attract that. So that had to be altered within myself, and that's gone away now. You know what I mean? You know, so I think the sexual, you know, there's a sacred sexual energy, and then there's the animal sexual energy, and that's the real trick, because here that's been our vehicle as a male, where our prowess is, how we judge ourselves in the finite mind of the man. But the trick, or the turn of it, is that our real power is that sacred sexual energy that is our creative force, right? Yes. And we take it out of that arena, you know, where we're having this, you know, this game of, you know, who can do who, and we move it into this new arena, this 5D plus. Do you have any reflections or perspective on how do we convert the sacred sexual energy into the creative force that you're talking about that serves the collective?
Yeah. I in my experience, and it's still very much a work in progress. It seems to be like a constant refinement kind of thing, like, you know, and it's so deep, and I'm aware it's very deeply programmed in me to, you know, there's an attraction to the feminine. It's like, you know, so the ultimate thing is I need to fuck her, like, you know.
Just being honest, but that's where we came from.
Yeah, it's kind of there, and it's been so programmed into us. That's what you do as a man, and that's your manhood, all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of realizing, I guess, over time that it's not that's not what I was really. It's like that's what I was tricked into believing, that's what I wanted. But the reality is, what I want is intimacy and connection and union with the feminine, you know. And it's so it gets to the point that there doesn't need to be penetration. There just needs to be this closeness and this intimacy and this vulnerability. And you know, you can make love on a video call, you know, just really being there and really being open and vulnerable. And I was finding that there was more of that sexual, that neediness was fulfilled by an intimate conversation than there was by having sex, till it came to the point was, I don't want sex anymore. I don't ever want to have sex again. I only ever want to make love. And there are so many ways of making love, and our conditioning and you know, the religion and so on has layer of guilt and shame and programming around sexuality, and that you have to have one partner, and and that's the only way that it can work, and you shackle together like whatever's going on and so on. I think that we are beginning, with all this interesting gender stuff, just the whole sort of how the difference between just man and woman has changed, and people, changing their genders and not feeling that they're in the right bodies and all this stuff. And this is all kind of moving into this away from polarity, and the same in relationship. It doesn't have to be that you're a monk, a celibate monk, or you're in a relationship. There's all this stuff in the middle that sort of says, well, the only stuff in the middle is if you're a player or a slut or a stud or something negative.
Yeah.
But I think we are beginning to open to a new way of connecting, and a new sacred sexuality, and a way of communion, of being together with male and female, and I think it is deep within us, but it has been covered up, but it's such a fine path to walk, because it is so loaded, loaded with fear and pain and the false, and it's so easy for ego to sneak in there, and it to become another ego trip and another mind trip and another another abuse of the feminine. Is such a delicate dance.
Well, and yourself too, as a man. Because I was celibate almost 5 years, and then we had a divine union ceremony in June. And what you're saying is very true. What we thought sex was is not what it is. That sacred sexuality is, like you said, it can be from holding hands. It can be from having a conversation. It can be from getting on your knees and saying, I'm fucked up, I'm crying, help me. But I think it's amazing that I said the same thing to myself. I said, I will not have sex again. I will not do it again. I would rather be celibate. I hope I'm not, but I would rather be celibate. But this is what I'm looking for. That energetic adjustment took place inside of myself. And I just want to say this to all the men who might watch this live or replay, that 3-4 weeks ago, when I finally, and I broke through a major threshold, and I won't go into all the details, but it had to do with the
I don't know if you can hear me, Todd, but you've just frozen. I've lost you. I've lost the sound and picture.
Anyway, I'm back. You hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're back. Good.
Okay. What I want to say, though, it's funny how when the energy starts to really get going, things happen. But what I wanted to say was, I hit my knees. It was at the blood moon. I hit my knees. I'm in a hotel room by myself. My partner's on the other side of the world. I'm in an isolation, universal isolation. I got to do it on my own. Going back to what you said, about I need my mom, but it's really you taking it on in yourself. And so there I was, and I was okay. I was happy to do that. But it got so intense, and I asked, please tell me what the hell I need to do. And you asked if you could cuss on the show. Like I said, so I'm going to go ahead and just tell you what I said to the universe, to the mother goddess energy, to the divine feminine in myself and such. And so I'm on my knees and I'm saying, what the hell do you want? I've worked, and here is the typical 3D man. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. And I finally said, fuck it. Okay. Fuck it. All right. I just got married. I'm looking forward to, an active, life of intimacy, whatever. I said, but look, you can take it all. Take everything. Take my dick. Okay. Take it all. I mean it. Take it. And that was the moment that it all just fell into place. That when I really said to myself, no bullshit, you can take my dick. You can take my sexuality. You can take everything. Just, I surrender. I surrender, period, end of story. And about 2 weeks later, right here, I was laying here on the bed, and I've had experiences of the feminine and masculine energy union, whatever you want to call it, but this was totally different. I felt the feminine energy present itself to me. It was my feminine energy. And it said, and I felt it, separated from the masculine, and it said, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about your divine feminine energy? And I said, I'm good. I'll take it. I'm good. And then the masculine came in, same thing, and then they both came in together, and it was a major moment. But I believe that the reason it was all precipitated or caused by my surrender to the masculine aspect of me, as powerful as it might be, that was false, which is let's get right down to it, is basically centered in our dick. When you think about it, and, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts on that? I knew we were going to have some fun. Well, you shouldn't have said, hey, can I cuss on Soulogy? Well, this is Soulogy, man. You obviously didn't watch the early years. I tried to clean it up. I'm wearing collar shirts now. You know what I mean? I don't even smoke on camera anymore. But really, I know it's kind of a hardcore thing, but I played sports. We've been in locker rooms all our lives. I mean, I used to say, if a man walks in, if a woman walks into a locker room, or a spa or whatever, and there's 12 women there, and she says, I'm having problems with my boyfriend, she's going to get a lot of support. If a man walks into a locker room and says, hey guys, I'm having a problem with my wife, they're all going to look at him like, you're a pussy. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So that mentality is the one I couldn't see as what I would describe as a powerful 3D man, an alpha male. I couldn't see that, and now it's different. Now it's different. Do you relate to that?
I've never been that kind of man, and I've always, I think I've always felt different and struggled to fit in with the whole male thing. It's always, I think a lot of people can probably relate to this, just always feeling the outsider, and it's taken me, a long time to sort of find my tribe, find people that I feel comfortable with. And yeah, it's like when I was married, it was, my wife would say, well, why don't we invite so-and-so around for something to eat, or why don't we go around and see so-and-so? And it's like, I just couldn't handle being with their husbands. Like it was just, I couldn't relate to the males, And so I guess in a way that was a bit of the moving me towards the feminine, and part of that guidance towards healing that within myself. But I guess, when I was at the Goddess conference, I did held space for some of the men's circles and so on. And I think it's important that, that somebody said to me, well, what are the two key things? Like for the women, it's about creating an experience of safety. My work with men feels like it's about inspiring courage, and essentially courage to feel what it is that we need to feel, because that is the big one. It seems to me, we're so, that's what I was doing. I was running from my feelings. I was so scared of the feelings until I, began to realize that actually, if I stop running and I just feel the sensation in my body, it's just a sensation in my body. It only becomes really painful if I perpetuate it with unhelpful thoughts. as long as soon as I get my mind centered and I drop the thoughts and just feel the sensation, it passes pretty quickly. Yeah. And even if it's like, even if it takes 8 days, I mean, figuratively, that's quite quick. It didn't feel fucking quick at the time. It felt like a but I was slipping into unhelpful thoughts a lot of the time, as that dance was happening, between the boy and the man. The boy throwing all sorts of thoughts that were generating massive pain in my body. But as soon as the man started being in the driver's seat more, the pain began to subside, kind of thing, Yeah. So
and that's a good point you made too, because I want to just make sure this for the men too. Mm-hmm. I identify what you're saying. As I was growing up as a little kid, I couldn't handle the alpha male stuff. I couldn't handle all the, and I never was a skirt chaser. I never was like that. I was a relationship oriented man. But what I'm trying to say is that I converted. I became that which I did not align with. And I became not just an alpha male, but a super alpha male, a dominant alpha male that stepped on people, that had a heart, but in the name of competition, all was fair. And so I had to, like you said, unlearn things. So I just want to make that point to men. It's okay to come back. It's okay to come back to what you started with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we feel it, don't we? That there's all this pressure about status and fancy jobs and buying all this stuff, and we know in our hearts, sometimes you've got to get there to the top of the mountain and go, this is crap. I don't want to be here. This doesn't bring me any peace or joy. Yeah. Or you can you can tune in before you've spent years and years doing that journey, like Yeah. And and that's what's happening with a lot of our young men, I think, these days. The old story of you work hard at school, you get good grades, you get a good job that earns lots of money, and then you can buy lots of stuff and you can live happily ever after. That old story is dead, and the young people know this. So the young men are going, well, so what's it all about? What am I? What am I doing here? There's nothing to work for. And so, there's this kind of like no man's land, as Charles Eisenstein talks about it, we're in between stories. The old story, we know it's crap, it's dead, it's falling apart. But the new story isn't clear enough and isn't focused enough to, this is what we're doing. And that's what we're doing on this show. We're just gathering a little more momentum and the ideas, the conversations, they're the beginning of building that new story, aren't they?
Well, I think what you said, I think what you said at the Goddess Conference about for the women, it was the safety. For the men, it's inspiring courage. We may not know what it looks like, but we do know one thing, that the igniter or the doorway to it is those vulnerabilities coming to the surface. That's where we find the power. We don't know what it looks like maybe on the other side, but that's where we find the power. And I want to restate that too, what you said, because it's very important. I know on my journey, and this is, again, very recent, I feel like I've been woke up 7 years, but I'm going to say go back 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months. And I'd be talking to Morgan and I'd say, and it wouldn't be about her necessarily. I would just say, what? She said, how you feeling? Say, I'm angry right now, or I'm upset right now, or I'm sad right now. And for the first time, I started to say to her and to myself, I'm not going to clear this right now. I want to feel this. I want to feel this. I want to be angry. It doesn't mean I'm going to let my mind go on and say, oh, this and that. It just means I want to feel that anger. I'm going to be pissed off for a little while. And it seems to have worked for me. So I don't know if that'll help other men out there, but I didn't run from it. I didn't deny it, and I didn't project it. Or make excuses or lie about it. I just said, I'm going to feel this. What is this? It's an energy. It's an emotion. Doesn't even matter why. It's just, I'm feeling this. And my body, I think, is what led me to do that.
Yeah. And our emotions are, they're a guidance system, aren't they? Like, and, basically it seems, if it's an uncomfortable emotion, then it's telling you that you're not in alignment with truth, the thoughts. Yeah. It seems to be, my Tai Chi teacher always used to say to me, mind moves first. So, you have the thought that generates the feeling and the emotion in the body, and that determines the action that you take and the outcome. So you become the master of your mind, and you become aware of which thought is generating which emotion, and you begin to empower yourself, don't you? But the emotion isn't going to just subside straight away. It's there to be felt, it's there to be felt. And so you change your thoughts, you change the way you're being, and you come to a more at peace place. And it's like, okay, so that's more in alignment with truth. Whatever was generating that uncomfortable emotion is from the past. It's an old wound, it's old energy, or it's something that I'm feeling in the present that isn't true with a capital T, you know what I mean?
And I think a big part of it too, because we were conditioned to make these excuses and project and blame, and I know that falls on both sides of the genders, but I'm talking about the masculine right now, and that what do they call it, the man's club, good old boys club, the man's club. That's where that herd mentality, that group mentality worked against us, is where, hey, if all the guys said we're cool, even though our little boy inside of us is going, they think I'm something that I'm not, or I'm portraying myself to be something that I'm not. That's how we operated. And man, I'm glad the smoke is cleared, because I'm feeling a greater power, and a greater control. When I say control, I don't mean like the control of the falsely empowered masculine. I'm talking about control of my life and of my field of energy and of the experiences I'm having and the relationships I'm having and the expressions I'm having with the work I do, which I picked up the same vibration when I was looking at your stuff last night, because it looks like you're locked in, both feet, and you're just charging the hill now in the name of serving the collective. So I'm happy to see that you're on the, that you're coming out with what you're coming out with now. And I'd love to collaborate with you more on it.
Thank you.
Because I don't think you can have a conversation about how does let's just use these terms. How does the 3D man turn into or transform into a 5D plus man? I don't think you can have these conversations without bringing in equally, even if it's all men talking about it, the divine feminine, the 3D woman's journey, the divine feminine's strengths, what she brings to the table, what she is. I don't think you can have the conversation and just talk about it from the male perspective.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of this shift that's happening, and it's kind of like there was a couple of beautiful bits at the Goddess conference where the men that were there went off and did their men's stuff. We were all together in this big kind of like temple party, and then the men went off and did their stuff, and the women did their ceremony, and the men did their ceremony. And wow, when they came back together, it was just so beautiful. We were kind of walking through the streets of Glastonbury, banging our drums and that in the middle of the night, making our way back to the Goddess temple. You know what I mean? It was just so beautiful, and the energy as the masculine met the feminine again, and we were reunited. So there is a place for the male stuff, and there's a place for the female stuff, within us, externally, and so on. But there has to be this weaving as well. With the Goddess conference, there's more of a move that it used to be just exclusively women, and there probably was an aspect of feminism in there, and men are the enemy and all that sort of stuff. But that's shifting, and and there is a move, to bring to recognition that we have to have these conversations with men as well, and that man embodies the divine feminine and can be a vanguard, a protector, somebody that honors the divine feminine. And so this happened in the Goddess conference. And then a long time ago, I did my New Warrior training adventure, the initiation with the Mankind Project. And I was contacted recently by one of the men from the Mankind Project saying that, he really feels that there needs to be more of the divine feminine needs to be in that men's initiation weekend. So
Yeah.
we can see, I can see it from the goddess conference and the man, the women's thing, the man's thing. They're both beginning to see we need to weave this more. The
Yeah.
women aren't the enemy, men aren't the enemy.
Right.
That's making an enemy within ourselves. If a woman thinks that the man is the enemy, then she's disconnected from her masculine within herself, And so there's this beautiful blending that is beginning to take place, and we're trailblazing this stuff, like, you know what I mean? And I don't know how long it's going to take. I remember I finished my talk at the end of the conference and said it's important to remember the bigger picture, that these boys and these young men that we work with who are so wounded and have suffered so much, they have their soul's journey, and there is a bigger picture going on here. I mean, for me, life is an initiation. This human life is a rites of passage of the soul, you know what I mean? And when we remember that, and remember that our lives are just a little tiny blink, these human lives are a little blip, that it may be generations before, what we are really striving for is fully here on earth. It may not be, it may happen. Who knows, I'm totally open, but it's not to get too hung up on that. It's kind of like, it's all unfolding perfectly. We have to get lost in order to get found, because I sure as hell know I did in my journey. I got severely lost. I did it thoroughly, like, you know what I mean? But that seems to have meant that I've come back pretty thoroughly as well,
Yeah. Well, I think that's the big lesson for the men, is we had, we just speak frankly, we had the power. It wasn't our fault. We were brought into this perfect design, this fishbowl of a realm, turned upside down. This was the way this trip was designed. But I think the real fear, this is where I was at. I was like, okay, if I give all this up, what do I got left? Well, you got nothing left. And that's when I just said, okay, well, you can have it all. Take my dick, take my sexuality, take it all. I surrender totally. Because what else? I tried everything else. So I got rid of the fear. And I think this is the trick for men, is what am I? And you said it earlier. You said, what are the 3 signs of the man pre-awakening? One was, what do I get for this? Where's the reciprocity for what I'm doing? So I had to get rid of that. And I'm glad you brought that up to me, because you just made me realize that. But that's what happened. I was like, okay, I don't have any. I'm just giving it all up. I surrender totally. Do what you want with me, okay? Because I guess what I wanted to finish up with was that, well, what I'm starting to understand, and maybe you can elaborate on this, is that when you give up and you surrender like that, the power that kicks in is far beyond anything we could have ever imagined, and it's way beyond what we came from,
Yeah. It's also paradoxical, isn't it? It all goes so against about everything that we've been taught, that we've been programmed with.
Yeah.
And it's, and that's, I can only ever speak from my own experience, but and that is my experience, Todd, just very recently, that through a process of constant surrender and letting go, and all those kind of that beautiful feminine stuff, all of a sudden this energy is moving through me that I feel, well, in awe of and humbled. And it's like, oh my God, oh my goddess, what, am I worthy of this? And it's like, well, you must be, otherwise you wouldn't be given, it wouldn't be happening, like, and it's a bit like, wow, it's that, the scriptures talk about it and all sorts of beautiful people talk about it, but it's like, you have to give up everything in order to receive everything, kind of thing. Like, you rather than trying to get what's for me, it's like letting it all go, and then you receive everything, like, you know what I mean? And then you begin to experience a peace and power and beauty, and life just starts blossoming and so on, in a way that you never thought was conceivable, because you thought you had to work at it and put effort in and all that shit.
Yeah, you didn't know you could get up every day and just let it all happen. It's still not, like you said, it's still not like, well, what I say is that in the 3D, everything's guaranteed. Contracts, possession, agreements. But in this, where we're at now, there is no guarantee. That's the beauty, and that's the beauty of it. It's all wide open. open-minded all the time, because like you said, it could take generations, it could take weeks. We don't know. We don't know, but we can keep moving forward. I've enjoyed this. I'd like to do it again. I'd like to do some collaborations. Somehow or another, we connect the dots and remove the illusion of the obstacle of geography, and we put some stuff together. I think it's important. I've been telling Morgan for months and months, I want to help the men. Of course, I didn't know I had to help myself first, but I think it's happening. There's more and more men stepping up, and I applaud you. Big props for the work you do with the kids and everything that you do. I'd love to collaborate with you again. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the audience. Their support, they're supporting you with their comments, and they're appreciating it. So thanks a lot, Miguel.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Can I really quickly just mention my book?
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure that you put whatever you want in the comment section, and send me the links, and I'll put them out through the network too.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yes. Stepping Stones in the Mist is life lessons for overcoming adversity. I wrote it about 7 years ago now. It's kind of quite an old book, but it was written to inspire people that there's nothing special about me. If I can get from where I was on the streets with drugs and crime and violence and all that crap to where I am now, then anybody can do it. And it's an autobiographical self-help book, because at the end of each chapter are the key principles that life gifted me, that I learned to enable me to move across the stepping stones in the mist, if you like, of my life. But yeah, if you want it, then you just need to get in touch with me personally, because Amazon are absolutely bloody useless, and don't go via Amazon. Let's forget about them. Just message me and I'll stick one in the post.
That's right, man. It will be out from under the radar of the matrix.
Yeah,
and I didn't know we had that similarity too, the streets and the drugs and the crime and all that stuff. But I totally get what you're saying. And you're a testament to that. We got another show coming on in 15 minutes with Honey Borden and Michael Abramson.
Brilliant.
And I hate to close this one out because I'm having a good time with it, but we'll do something together. And if you want, we could even do one on the book. That might work. That might be something people be interested in, and they'd get something out of. But whatever, we'll just make it up as we go, Miguel. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, and thank you to everybody that's listened and contributed. Lots of love, lots of love. Let's keep fucking the system with love, yeah?
There you go. That's right. All right, peace out, brother.
Yes.